Are you ready? It is time for another episode of Broad Street and Beyond, where everything Philly sports at Central PA is in play. We leave those New York sports in the penalty box. And now, here's Chase and JT.
What is going on, everyone? JT and Chase back with another edition of Broad Street and Beyond. And we are recording this on a Friday afternoon, a good Friday afternoon at that, as we are heading straight into the Easter weekend. Lots, as always, to chat about. Chase, how you doing, my friend?
I am doing quite well, man, here on this Friday, ready to kick it into a holiday weekend for sure, man. Easter right around the corner. That means we'll maybe have some steady 70, 80-degree weather here coming up soon, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I was actually I was out and about today running a bunch of errands in the morning, and I kept hearing about this 70-degree weather and sunshine, and I wasn't seeing too much of that. I wasn't seeing. I was seeing cloudy, gloomy skies and temperatures in the mid-40s is what I was getting. So I'm holding out hope that the second half of the day here, maybe by this evening, we could maybe get some nice-looking weather out there to enjoy.
Yeah. I'm hoping, man. I mean, I had my clothing set out for my other job this morning. I was going to get it in shorts. I was getting it like nice Hawaiian shirt here this morning. Guess what I ended up dressing in? Pants and a pullover to go to work this morning. Not the way I would have liked to plan it, but here we are.
Welcome to spring, my friend, here in South Central PA. Good to be with you here, folks, with another edition of Broad Street and Beyond, coming to you from the Fairview Golf Course Studios. Great golf in Central PA for over 6 years, and we are excited to announce that Broad Street and Beyond is now part of the Seven Mountains Media Sports family, and that means you can find our podcast over on 7mmsports.com or by downloading the Radio Novo app, or you can download the Wilbur Radio or My Froggy Valley app and get to the Radio Novo content through there. So just another way for you to check us out. And, of course, we will, as always, be here on our YouTube page. And remember to like, share, and subscribe as we try to grow our subscriber base. And, again, pretty excited to have another platform to share this content. And Chase and I have been having a lot of fun doing this, so proud and excited to be part of the Seven Mountains Media Sports family.
Man, just like my stomach over the wintertime, man. We're expanding as well, you know?
Yes, my stomach has been expanding quite a bit too over these past couple months. I've got a spring and summer full of conditioning ahead of me here. I got to get myself back on track. Speaking of getting on track, the Phillies, as we start things off here, got back a little on track in the past series. Chase, they took 2 out of 3 from the Nationals. They rallied on Wednesday for the 6-5 10-inning win. They're now 3-3 on the season. And so they're 6 games in, 2 series, a 6-game homestand before they hit the road beginning tonight in Colorado against the Rockies. What are your thoughts on what you've seen over these first 6 games from our Philadelphia Phillies?
Well, it's no surprise. I mean, they're always slow starters every year. I mean, we always start off, of course, with the offense and the top 3 leadoff hitters. Trey Turner, you got Schwarber at the top of the lineup, you got Harper. All of those guys are having their struggles here early on. It doesn't seem like some of the folks in the bottom of that lineup, you know, Bryson Stott starting to play pretty well. Also, Brandon Marsh. Stott had a great spring training. You also have your woes with starting off here early, man, with the bullpen, which you don't really want to see. I mean, it's a revamped bullpen going forward here for the Phillies, and you need that bullpen when some of the starting pitching, you know, after, you know, Christopher Sanchez, you know, you saw the struggles with the starting pitching after him already here in the early going. I mean, still early. The Phillies are always a slow starter early on in the season, whether it be the offense, whether it be the pitching. You see it year in and year out. They had a nice comeback win here, the last one, with Edmundo Sosa getting that big hit, also Crawford getting the big hit. But, you know, it's early. Not time to hit the panic button yet, JT, in Philadelphia. But as far for some of the offense that is concerned, I mean, I do have my concerns for Bryce Harper. He didn't have a really good spring training, didn't have a really good World Baseball Classic at all either. So that is a little concerning going forward, but I think the more reps he gets, and hopefully he can figure it out here early on in the season.
Well, I would say I would have to disagree. I would say if you're a true Phillies fan, it's never too early to hit the panic button.
I just start panicking now.
I always have the panic button right to my right here that I can just press it at a moment's notice. But all kidding aside, I think if you're trying to be optimistic, you could say, well, they've had their struggles and they're still 3-3. I mean, some of the positives I would say, Christopher Sanchez was really good his first start. He wasn't as good his second start, but still overall pretty good. Was really excited to see what Andrew Painter gave them the other day in winning the second game, and I guess Justin Crawford has been a nice surprise as well.
Amazing,
He's played pretty well. It looks like he could be a nice addition to that lineup. But yeah, I mean, there's also plenty of things that haven't gone as well to balance that out. Nola was okay. Luzardo wasn't good. Taijuan Walker wasn't good. The bullpen has been Brad Keller has gotten hit around pretty good, and I think they brought him in to be more of an established setup guy, a guy to get you to Duran, and that hasn't really worked out. So I think the bullpen has been a little bit of a mixed bag. And Schwarber and Harper have Harper got a home run the other night. Schwarber's had a couple of homers, but you're right. I don't have that comfort level with 1 through 4 right now. And I guess if you take all of that into consideration, 3-3 isn't so bad when you think that Turner, Harper, Schwarber, and Bohm really haven't gotten off to great starts. So it's been a little bit of the middle to bottom of the lineup. And they've also gotten some timely hits, here and there. They've shown the ability to come back in the late innings, and I guess their pitching has been good enough. So we'll see. Now they go to Colorado for 3, and then they're in San Fran for 3. So we'll see what happens as they come out of this road trip. So I guess it would be Nola tonight. It would go Nola, Luzardo, and Walker for Colorado, and then we would come back with Painter, Sanchez, and Nola. Although there's probably an off day in there too. Yeah. Maybe Nola again, or we'll see if there's an off day in there. I didn't look close enough at the schedule. So again, Colorado isn't good, so you'd like to think they could take 2 out of 3, but again, you never know what offense is going to show up from one night to the next.
Yeah, and that ball flies out of that Colorado air that's out there in Colorado when they play out there. But I mean, it's concerning from the standpoint of this is where everybody thought that running it back. You heard the statement all spring training long. You heard it in the offseason of the Phillies running this back and bringing back a lot of the guys from last year and the team. I mean, you're seeing it too with is Taijuan Walker ever going to be the answer? Obviously, probably when Wheeler comes back, he's going to be out of that rotation for sure. I would think that he'd be the odd man out of that rotation.
More than likely,
Yeah, hopefully put him in the bullpen. But the offensive struggles, man, leaving guys on base already here to start the season 2 is a little concerning. You don't want to see that early on in the baseball season. You would think that, that's what spring training's for. When you have those guys in runners in scoring position, you play the small ball. Well, the Phillies, for years, at JT, I mean, we don't know how to play small ball. We're always trying to hit the ball out of the yard when we have runners on base and everything else. So when it comes to small ball, the Phillies just do not do that on a consistent basis, and you're starting to see it here early on in the baseball season. But like you said, man, they should be able to take this Colorado series and hopefully, make some positives here going forward instead of the negatives that we've seen in the past couple of games from the Phils.
Well, I guess at some point you just have to realize that they are what they are. I mean, we can talk. I mean, if we talk about the same things all the time, for the past 3-4 seasons since they went to the World Series in 2022. The consistency, the lack of too many strikeouts in the lineup, not enough hitting with runners in scoring position, or not enough consistent hitting. Those are things that even before we did this podcast, you and I would just chat in the office and talk Phillies. It seems like we're always talking about the same things. with this core. The core has changed a little bit, but it's still mostly been, since 2023, Turner, Harper, Schwarber. That's the main core. Some of the other pieces have changed out. Bohm, I guess you could consider part of the core. Bryson Stott as well. But yeah, it's kind of like a broken record, and maybe we're expecting a little too much for that to change. It seems like they still have the same approach at the plate. We talk about is the messaging or the philosophy they're getting from Kevin Long, is that not the right philosophy? We don't know for sure what advice he's giving to the hitters, whether they're taking that advice and making those proper adjustments. So we'll see here. It's a lineup that's very, very streaky. We're on here this week talking about their struggles. No consistency, but they could go in a couple of weeks. They could be raking the ball and scoring runs like crazy and suck us back in again, and then we'll be sucked back in, and then we'll be complaining again.
You're telling me to throw in the towel, though. I'm supposed to be throwing in the towel after they're 3-3. I mean, all kidding aside, though, too. I mean, the one bright spot, though, is definitely Justin Crawford here early on in the season. I mean, he seems to be comfortable at the plate, which is awesome to see from a guy just starting out in the major leagues, having his major league debut. And that big hit, man, in the 10th inning, I mean, that has got to give him definitely some confidence going forward in his career here and in his at-bats going forward here with the Phillies. But it is awesome to finally see somebody that the Phillies have called up, from the minor leagues, that's actually starting the season off well and on a positive note. And that is certainly good to see. But I'm still going to throw in my towel here after we're done on this broadcast, sell all my stuff on eBay and get rid of all my Phillies gear. So if you're interested, it'll be up for sale today.
No, don't throw in the towel. I didn't tell you to throw in the towel. I told you to hit the panic button.
Hit the panic button.
Hit the panic button. Don't throw in the. Geez, don't throw in the towel. That's a whole different.
Give it up.
That's a whole different area. Yeah, you got to hit the panic button, then you throw in the towel.
Oh, okay. In that order.
Let the panic set in first.
Okay.
And then when you're done panicking, then you throw in the towel. That's the way it works.
It's all about the baby steps, right? All about the baby steps.
This is all a big This is all a process. Orioles, same deal. They're 3-3 as well. They're coming off the 8-3 win. They were in action on Wednesday. They got the 8-3 win over the Texas Rangers to avoid the sweep. The same Texas Rangers that took 2 out of 3 in Philadelphia to start the season. Obviously, that was another great start from Trevor Rogers. That's one guy it seems like they don't have to worry about. He's now 2-0, a sub-2 ERA. He's everything that they could have hoped for in the early going. Now, they're kind of similar to the Phillies in the sense that the top of their lineup has had its struggles. In the game on Wednesday in Texas, it was actually the bottom of the lineup that really came through. I'm talking like 6 through 9 hitters, Beavers, Colton Cowser, Leota Taveras, Jeremiah Jackson. 7 hits, 5 RBIs, and 5 runs scored combined. So it's good in the sense that it looks like they've got some depth in the lineup, but I know they would like to see more consistency like the Phillies in the top of their lineup. I know Pete Alonso homered the other night for the first time. Gunnar Henderson has had a couple of good games, but not as much consistency at the top of their lineup as well.
Yeah, and I think, too, when you look at the Baltimore squad there, I mean, they were really taxied, I should say, in the early going there with their bullpen. They used their bullpen a lot there in the early going in the first couple of games that they played. And Bradish, of course, he took the loss in the opener. I think he's pitching tonight. I think he's been pitching for Baltimore tonight. Bradish back in the line, but they need guys like Gunnar Henderson to start hitting the ball. He's had his inconsistencies here to start the season. Pete Alonso looks like he's starting to tick. He'll eventually figure it out as well now that he's new into that organization down in Baltimore. But you got to see again. I mean, they're a very young team. Outside of the Pete Alonsos and even Gunnar Henderson. I mean, he's been now, with that club for a couple of years too, but they're still a young ball club, and the bullpen being taxied early on in the season is not good going forward for Baltimore. They're going to take on Pittsburgh here in a series that's going to be pretty big. Both teams are 3-3, but I hope to see Baltimore do fairly well this season. I really would like to see them at least even, get their feet wet into the playoffs here of the Major League season. But I wish only the best for Baltimore down there, because they've had some really, really trying seasons here down there in Baltimore, and they finally, look like they have a somewhat of a consistent team this year to actually compete with some of the other bigger clubs there in the American League East. So we'll see how that plays out with Baltimore, but I think they'll figure it out here eventually.
And they've got Jackson Holiday. I think that's going to be back sooner than later. He's on a rehab start right now. Now, they talked about going into the season. I've read a lot about they feel like the organization has a lot of depth in the starting pitching department. That's obviously going to be tested now. Zach Eflin, the former Philly, went down in the game the other night with some elbow discomfort. And when you start hearing stuff about elbow pain and elbow discomfort, that's usually not a good sign. So we'll see what comes out of that. But he had to exit the game. I think it was in the fourth inning, and he was going pretty well in the early going. And again, they talked about the depth they have, but I don't think you never want to test that depth this early in the season. So I mean, they have some guys they can go to. They could end up calling up Dean Kremer. They have a trio of prospects down in the minors. Trey Gibson, Cade Povich, Brandon Young, that could make their way into the mix, but I don't think that the organization wants to, pull the trigger on that this early. I think they would like for those guys to get some more starts down in the minors and maybe bring them up a little later on in the season. Those are some options that they can go with, but yeah, they got a big series coming up. They've got the Pirates tonight in Pittsburgh. That's the start of a 6-game trip. Then they go to Chicago to play the White Sox. So again, as we're kind of seeing here with the Phillies and the Orioles and even the Pirates, who we're going to talk about in just a few moments, just kind of everybody's early going here, just kind of trying to work their way through some of the kinks and try to tread water as best they can.
Yeah, do you think, too, in spring training, too, JT? I mean, there's always a lot of speculation that, a lot of the starters, and you saw it for the Phillies, they just don't get those reps in spring training. And it's the same way with every ball club, in spring training. You start off early, and you start off with all the young guys that are, down in the minors, starting to get their feet wet in professional baseball. But you see it throughout spring training. Do you think that's the cause of all of this, that some of these big stars just don't get enough reps down at spring training?
I think it's possible. I think with some of the hitters, I think that's possible. But then, you take a guy like Nola, who had 2 really good starts in the World Baseball Classic for Team Italy. I think Luzardo looked pretty good as well. And then the two of them kind of struggle in their first start. So, yeah, I mean, maybe for some of the regulars, I know you want to get a look at everyone. You want to see who could stand out. But you're right, maybe those guys should be getting more reps and playing in more games because, I don't know, maybe it's just, the intensity isn't quite there in spring training and some guys have a little trouble, ramping it up once the season starts. The Buccos, as we said, they raised the Jolly Roger
they still
2 games in a row.
They still do that Jolly Roger thing? Yeah,
well, just not as often. They raise it, but they don't get a chance to do it a lot. That's the problem. But back-to-back 8-3 wins over the Reds, so they're 3-3. So we got the Pirates, we've got the Orioles, and then we've got the Phillies, all 3-3 in the early going. I think if you're a Pirates fan, you were happy to see Paul Skeens bounce back from that really bad effort on opening day against the Mets. He had a nice, solid start, gave up just 1 run over 5 innings in the win Wednesday over the Reds. They've got some guys that I think are really getting it going. I'm really I've got this feeling about the Pirates this year. I'm kind of bullish on them. I think they could get darn close to getting in one of those wild card spots.
Yeah.
They've got Nick Gonzalez he had 2 hits. He's batting .333. Brian Reynolds is off to a pretty good start. O'Neill Cruz, we talked about his mishaps and his adventures in center field on opening day, but he's got 3 homers in the last 2 games. He had the 3-run homer on Wednesday against the Reds. You know, he's certainly raking it at the plate. I feel like there's a lot of potential with this club. Maybe Pirates fans say that every year, but I don't know. I really have a good feeling about them this year.
You know, I don't think in the early season, I mean, I think the Pirates are completely different than Baltimore and also with Philadelphia. I mean, offense has not been an issue with Pittsburgh here to start the season. You know what the real issue has been is them leaving guys in runners in scoring position. I mean, in that one game, they were 3 for 14 with runners in scoring position. They've been leaving guys in scoring position each and every single one of their 6 games that they have started, and they're getting some big-time help tonight. Did you see the big news here with Pittsburgh tonight?
About Connor Griffin?
Yeah, Connor Griffin should be called up here. It should be a moment of time here, hopefully, that he's going to get called up to the major leagues to start off series in Baltimore.
He's actually going to make his debut tonight.
Oh, did they already do it? They already called him up?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, there you go.
In fact, I think that just happened yesterday. They made the call up. He's the I guess he's the number 1 ranked prospect right now in Major League Baseball. He's batting get this, 16 at bats down in AAA Griffin, 7 hits, 3 doubles. He's got a 438 average and a 1.196 OPS. He also has walked 5 times, and in the 16 at bats, he has struck out only 4 times.
Wow. Yeah,
that's 4 times. Yeah.
That's pretty incredible stats. I mean, for a young guy, I mean, he's not even 20 years old. He's, I think his birthday's coming up here shortly, ain't it? He's a couple weeks or days shy of his 20th birthday. He's only 19 years old, and the guy's raking it in, man. I mean, that's good to see for Pittsburgh from their standpoint. Again, I mean, putting a guy like that into their offense and the way their offense has already been producing here to start the season, you know, and they're going to take on Baltimore tonight. I mean, I think there's going to be only good things coming from Connor Griffin and the Pittsburgh Pirates, man. He's a pretty incredible young kid, and what he's been doing in the minor leagues has been nothing short of absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I think there's reason for excitement in Pittsburgh for this kid to come up and play, and you know, if he does anything close to what he did down in AAA, I think he's up to stay. But I mean, one thing about Pittsburgh, they're not going to let a guy, you know, if they think it's time, they'll bring him right up. And I think it only took 16 at bats for the organization to see what he's capable of, and they thought, well, you know, we might as well get this guy up here and get him in our lineup and see if he can't make a difference.
You know, they don't do what the Phillies do. They don't ruin their prospects when they call them up. Is that what you're hinting at here, JT?
Well, I don't know about. I just feel like the Phillies are just a little more methodical than my liking. You know, I've always you see a guy last year like Justin Crawford, seeing what he was, and you're like, oh, let's go. You know, he's batting 3-something. Let's go. Get him up. Let's go. This offense needs a jolt. You know, and that's what we're hoping for Justin Crawford here to continue to give that Phillies lineup a jolt because they certainly need it.
I sense that jab, man. I sense that jab from you. I sense that jab a little bit. That little left hook.
I'm a southpaw. I like to. I slipped the jab.
You're getting close to the hook, man. You're getting close to that hook.
Yeah, I hear that. So the Eagles, I kind of planned initially of maybe doing some talk about the draft and kind of what the Eagles were looking for, but then I saw the story earlier this week out in Arizona. They had the NFL owners meetings, and Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie, he met with the media to kind of give his state of the Eagles address, and not only that, it just so happened that around the same time a story comes out from ESPN's Tim McManus. There's a story out there about some people in the organization, obviously remaining nameless or remaining anonymous, that
of course
that didn't paint Jalen Hurts in too great of a light, talking about how he's been kind of stubborn and resistant to certain things and running the offense, not wanting to be under center as much. Not letting the ball rip, not doing well in zone coverages, changing plays to more his liking, and that's what kind of led to the inconsistency and the frustration with the offense. I don't know if you had a chance to look at that or if you heard about that story, but what are your thoughts when you hear those things come out about Jalen Hurts? I don't think that's anything new than what we've heard before, but I think it's pretty interesting timing for that story to come out now.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's coming out right before the draft happens here. We're going to get to the Jeffrey Lurie, the state of the Eagles, of where they're at right now. But, I mean, you get all these rumors. You never know what's exactly true out there, especially when people come out and say, oh, it's anonymous, and they're not going to even reveal who they are when it comes out in the media. But, I mean, Jalen Hurts is a very competitive guy. I mean, same thing almost along the lines of A.J. Brown. I mean, you hear all these rumors about A.J. Brown. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. You know, when you get these things that come out in the media, you don't know what's true. You don't know what's real, what's not. I mean, especially with Jalen Hurts. I mean, he seems like a guy that is a very fierce competitor. I mean, at times he doesn't show it, I'm sure, but behind closed doors, and I'm sure in the locker room, I'm sure he has a lot of input. I mean, he is the starting quarterback of your Philadelphia Eagles, and rightfully so. He certainly should have some sort of, feedback and everything else on what the offense is doing, and I'm sure he voices his opinion from time to time, and I think that's good. I mean, I think that's what makes this team what it is for the Philadelphia Eagles. You got a lot of guys that maybe behind the scenes you're not seeing on the sidelines, you're not seeing that fire, you're not seeing the passion on the sidelines, but once they get behind closed doors, maybe it's a different story. And I think, if it's coming from your starting quarterback, I don't personally think it's a bad thing. I mean, if he's questioning what you're doing on the offensive side of things, and you certainly had your issues, this past season, so with him coming out and saying the things, if it's true, I don't have an issue with what was said, or if anything was said in that locker room. I mean, that's quarterback uno number one, right there, saying what his feelings are to the struggles that the offense did have this past season.
Well, I think maybe one of the major issues is the fact that Jalen Hurts, I don't think, had a lot of trust in Kevin Patullo last year, and I think that's why he was maybe resistant to do some of the things or he just wasn't comfortable doing. So I think it's going to be incumbent upon Sean Mannion, the new offensive coordinator, to work with Jalen and build that trust, and hopefully the two can be on the same page a lot more than Hurts and Kevin Patullo were.
Right.
Because if not, then I think we're going to get some frustrating results with this offense again. And, we talked about this a lot this past season. I think the health of the offensive line had a lot to do with their struggles as well. I think that offensive line kind of not being up to par really undermined a lot of the things that they tried to do throughout the season. And you saw, too, that Saquon Barkley didn't have as good of a season as well. And I think the inconsistency and the struggles of the offensive line, the injuries of the offensive line played a huge part in that. But yet, so some of the things that Jeffrey Lurie talked about, I guess, he talked about the fact that he would ultimately have to sign off. I think he was asked about, trading A.J. Brown, and it's something that he would have to sign off on. He has, he trusts Howie Roseman, but that's something that he would have to sign off on. And, I think he listens to Howie Roseman, but, he at the end of the day, it's going to be his final decision on whether or not A.J. Brown stays with the Eagles, and whether or not the organization can get him on the same page with everyone and be able to work something out for next season.
Yeah,
but the rumors you keep hearing though now are that if something's going to happen, it would be around draft time.
Yeah, and again, we've discussed this time and time again. I mean, about, is A.J. Brown going to get traded? Is anything that the media is reporting, is it actually true that's out there about A.J. Brown? And one thing from my standpoint, when I watch professional sports, and I'm sure you too, JT, I mean, at times, these guys are getting paid millions and millions of dollars, but you don't see that fire and the passion, on the field. And maybe some guys have that passion and fire behind closed doors, albeit with Jalen Hurts and some of those guys that are in the locker room. And that's kind of the fire that us fans would just love to see on the field. We just sometimes don't get that passion from some of these players that are on the field when they're playing the game and the sports that we love. But I think Jeffrey Lurie is a very humble and a guy that, will speak the truth, that will come out and say the things that are on his mind. He made various comments. I think, probably one of maybe the most alarming one was the one that he made about, Jalen Carter. He wasn't sure if they were talking about Jalen Hurts or Jalen Carter in the interview itself, and then he even had to ask the reporter. He said, "Are we talking about Jalen Carter? Are we talking about Jalen Hurts here?" And he was talking about Jalen Carter when he was saying, the comments that he was saying about, the season that Jalen Carter had of, re-signing him, and even the talk about re-signing Jalen Hurts. Jeffrey Lurie said, there's no imminent, plans of re-signing or, extending his contract to Jalen Hurts, that he's got to, still prove the doubters wrong, which I think coming out with a comment like that, the guy's already won a Super Bowl, what he did in that Super Bowl year, and winning the Super Bowl again for the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, I think it speaks for itself of what Jalen Hurts does. I mean, he has his drawbacks, in previous seasons and also in last season, too. You saw that a little bit, and that may have to do with the offensive coordinator they had there. But, I think a lot of comments that Jeffrey Lurie makes, I think, he's the guy, the ultimate guy that's signing those paychecks for the Philadelphia Eagles, and he's going to tell you exactly what he thinks from time to time. And I would think deep down inside, A.J. Brown is not one of the guys that he wants to see go in that offensive unit that the Philadelphia Eagles have. I mean, being one of the best receivers, again, like I talked about this weeks ago, he's one of the best receivers in the NFL. Why would you let the guy go? Obviously if there's some struggling and some pains in the locker room, but I don't see why you would let a guy like A.J. Brown go unless you're going to get something major in return for A.J. Brown.
Well, again, and I think there's that, and I think the Jalen Carter extension, I think, is what's most pressing on their mind right now. Yeah. And I think with Jalen Hurts, I think it's going to be, let's see what you do this year, and then maybe we'll start talking extension. I don't think that's on the front burner. I think for right now, that's a little bit more on the back burner. He did talk a little bit about, roster management, and he talked about, what their philosophy is and where they like to put their financial resources, and then where they kind of like to build through the draft. You saw in years past, they put more financial resources in on the offensive side of the ball, and then have built up their defense through the draft. I think now they might be putting more of their financial resources in on the defensive side. You saw that last year with, re-signing or giving an extension to Zach Bond. They gave Jordan Davis the extension. They went out and they're talking about extension with Jalen Carter. And I think you're going to see them start to draft more for the offensive side of the ball, because it's an aging core, especially some things on the offensive line. They got to start thinking past Lane Johnson. I think Landon Dickerson signed a short-term deal, which indicates he's probably not going to be playing football long-term based on his injury history. So they have to start thinking about that. What's the health situation going into this year for Cam Jurgens at center? Those are definitely some things that they're going to have to address, and some things they're going to have to talk about. And are they thinking what's life going to be like after Dallas Goedert, and what's life going to be like after A.J. Brown? I think those are questions that they're going to have to start addressing, and maybe they start doing it as soon as this upcoming draft at the end of the month.
Yeah, I think the awesome thing too, I mean, and you know it all too well, man. Jeffrey Lurie, I think, is a realist. If you really wanted to call him that, when he looks at the team and looks at the season that you just had, and he's a guy that's not afraid to sit there and say, hey, this went wrong last season. We got to fix this. We got to fix A, B, or C, and they're going to do it here in the offseason. You know that for a fact. And like you said, the offensive line is something that really, really needs some attention here as they go into the draft here in a couple of weeks. And hopefully they can do that. I mean, Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman, man, until those two guys came to Philadelphia, we know what we had prior seasons until they came to Philadelphia, and they have really just turned that whole thing around down there in Philadelphia for the Philadelphia Eagles franchise, and they'll figure it out here as we get into the draft, and looking forward to seeing what they exactly do here before we get to the draft, because they may do some deals here before the draft too, but just never know what they're going to do, Howie Roseman and also Jeffrey Lurie, when it comes to rebuilding that team for next season.
I think also, I think he's hasn't been shy about the fact that it sounds like he wants a new stadium. I'm talking about Jeffrey Lurie. I think he wants a new stadium, and I think he's done a couple of things over the last couple of years. In fact, I think he's even sold a minority stake in the team because I think he's trying to get some cash, use the value of his franchise to have some cash on hand, whether or not that's for roster management later on in the seasons to come, or to get money to help fund a brand new stadium. But it sounds like that's something that's definitely on his radar, and I'm sure, my guess is that he'll end up getting it.
And don't come up with the dumb ideas like the Philadelphia 76ers did let's build a stadium downtown. Don't do it. It's perfect where it's at, right there in that whole stadium complex. It's easy to get to. Let's not complicate things, man. If you're going to build a new stadium, let's just revamp the link and do something a little bit bigger there on that site so that all the sports are all in one spot. I know it gets chaotic when there's probably two games at one time down there, but it is perfect. It's easy to get to, and you don't have to worry about congestion, because I'll never go to an Eagles game if it's in downtown Philadelphia. That will never happen.
Well, I think the idea or the theory of having something downtown is nice to talk about. I think it sounds good because you've seen it done in other cities. The other problem is it's in other cities they have a different infrastructure. It's
right.
There isn't as much congestion. There's easy access in and out of those cities, and also the fact that in some of those cities, the people that live down there, they're used to taking mass transit down to the games, and that's just not the case in Philly, because for all these years it's been in South Philadelphia. People are used to getting in their cars, driving to the stadium, driving to the complex, and when they're done, you get back in your car and you drive home. It's not like these people, people aren't used to taking this, the buses and the trains and the subways down into the city, and that's what you would have to do in Philadelphia if there were, arenas or a stadium downtown, because there just wouldn't be the parking to support, being able to just drive into the city, park your car, and go into the game.
Yeah, the Schuylkill Expressway is not my favorite part of my trip to Philadelphia, I can tell you that. But if I could do without the Schuylkill Expressway, I'd be all right. I can tell you that.
Everybody has a horror story or two about driving on the Schuylkill Expressway. It's in everybody's DNA.
Yep.
Switching to some puck talk here. We've got the Flyers, we've got the Caps and the Pens all coming down the home stretch of the regular season. If I had to guess, I would say one of those three is going to make the playoffs. The Flyers are making a late push here, although the last two games they've really had a chance to get themselves in a good position, but they came up short. They had the 6-4 loss to the Caps in Washington on Tuesday, and then last night a really cool atmosphere, electric, and it was an entertaining game at times, but ultimately they lost 4-2 to the Red Wings. They got Tyson Forster back, who originally was going to be out for the whole season. He scored in his return. Porter Martone signed his entry-level contract. He's looked terrific. He's had a ton of scoring chances. So there's been a little extra juice to the offense, but the defense had some really costly turnovers last night, especially Ristolainen. Jamie Drysdale had a turnover that led to a goal last night late in the second period. And ultimately the Flyers are not out of it yet, but they really could have gone a long way in getting into a playoff position, and they could have won at least one of these last two and possibly both. And there were two teams that they were certainly capable of beating.
And man, what a tough game last night. I mean, did you watch that game last night?
I did. I watched a good portion of it.
And I'll tell you what, man, I'm not a Flyers fan. I mean, they'd be probably my second favorite team if I didn't like the Vegas Golden Knights. But I'll tell you what, man, that is not the way to lose a game last night. The way they did it. I mean, they had all the momentum. They had more shots on goal. It's like you mentioned, Martone had 9 shots on goal in that game last night. Really picked up the pace in that third period. Martone did. I mean, his game. I'll tell you what, if you're a Flyers fan, you got to be loving what he is doing. You know, when he shot that puck into the goal and it ricocheted off of who was that? Konechny that it ricocheted off of last night. Went in, they reviewed the play. They came back, said it was no goal. Then Tocchet, challenged the play. Then they came back and said it was a goal. And then 15 seconds later, you got Sanheim turning over the puck and having Patrick Kane go the opposite direction and score that goal, pretty much the game winner last night for the Detroit last night. I mean, just not a way you want to lose that game, and every game counts here, man. It's the same thing with the Washington Capitals. I mean, you're seeing glimpse of hope at times, but if they want to make the playoffs, there's 7 games remaining in this season, and that is not the way you want to lose a hockey game last night in the way that the Flyers did, and it was just it was really heartbreaking to watch after they had that big time goal. Martone got his first points, as a professional NHL player, and then they turn around 15 seconds later and give up a game-winning goal.
Yeah, and the Flyers had a game in hand on some of these teams. As things stand now, they're at 86 points, which is actually still just 2 points back of the wild card spot. Because, a lot of these other teams have lost, but the Flyers have not taken advantage of those opportunities. It looks like if they're going to get in, they're going to have to get that second wild card spot, because now they're eight points back of the Bruins for the first wild card spot. They're 2 back. They would have to pass Columbus, Detroit, and Ottawa to get into that second wild card spot. They are 3 points back of third in the Metro Division, 3 points back of the Islanders, who, by the way, the Flyers play the Islanders coming up tonight, and they have a game in hand on the Islanders. So again, it's not out of the question, but the Flyers have to start winning these games in order to. So they got the game tonight in New York. They've got the game Sunday with Boston. Then they've got 3 on the road: New Jersey, at Detroit again, another big one, and at Winnipeg. So it's the margin for error is there. Really, there is no margin for error anymore. They got to start winning, and I feel like if they don't. I almost feel like they have to win that game tonight against the Islanders, because if they don't, I think it's going to be too little too late.
Yeah, and last night too was a prime example. I mean, you can speak for it too. I mean, at the end of the game, the scoreboard always doesn't tell the story, because last night the Flyers were in that game and rightfully deserved to win that hockey game last night, and they just could not pull it out. It's like you said, with the turnovers and everything else that happened in that hockey game last night for Philadelphia, they certainly should have won that game, and the end result just was not any indication of how they played in that game, because they certainly should have won that game last night.
Yeah, the Caps same kind of difference. They had some momentum going. They had won 3 in a row. They had played themselves back into the wild card chase, and then last night I don't know what happened. They certainly you would think a winnable game against the Devils. And they go out and they lose 7-3. I mean, that's just a backbreaker, from where I stand.
Yeah, and Tom Wilson had a couple of goals, I think, in that game last night. Didn't play the way they wanted to play either. I mean, both these teams, it's very similar. I mean, the Capitals are still right behind the Flyers, right, in the playoff race in the Metro.
Yeah, I think they're 2 points back.
I mean, neither one of these teams have any margin for error, and you come out and really tanked one last night against the Devils. It was a huge setback for their playoff hopes for sure going forward. I mean, Ovechkin had a fairly decent game last night too. You're getting some good games from Ryan Leonard there for Washington. Also, I think Pierre Dubois, I think he had a pretty decent game last night for Washington as well. In that, Logan Thompson has been their one bright spot all season long in the net, saving a lot of games for the Washington Capitals. But going forward, I mean, you got to have that offense step up. You got to have the special teams step up, not turning the puck over like the Flyers have been doing too. And they're getting some games where it's just inconsistent hockey. It's been that way all season for both teams, for the Capitals and also for the Flyers.
Yeah, I think I think if it's going to be too little, too late. I think both of those teams are going to just miss out. You know, the Flyers. I think they made a nice run to get back into things here over the All-Star break, or after. I'm sorry, after the Olympic break. You know, and again, they're still not out of it. You know, if they win tonight against the Islanders and beat the Bruins on Sunday, both easier said than done. You know, this time next week we're talking about something different. The Penguins obviously are in a much better position to get into the playoffs. They're in a playoff position right now. They had won a couple of games in a row. Then they lost last night to the Lightning 6-2. But I would think that their standing is pretty good here as we come down the home stretch. They're in second place. Probably that's where they'll end up. I don't think the Islanders are going to catch them. That's just my gut, but they're not going to catch the Hurricanes for first either. So I'm kind of thinking that second spot in the Metro is where the Penguins are slotted. And look, credit to them. They had a lot of depth scoring throughout the season.
Yep.
They were able to absorb some injuries. You know, Crosby has missed time twice this year. Malkin's missed some time with injury. Some of their defensemen, Erik Karlsson's been out at times. Chris Letang's been out. They made a couple of trades. You know, they've had some roster turnover, but they've been able to weather that storm, throughout the season. And they really avoid. I think they had one little rut, but overall they really avoided digging themselves into a deep hole.
And before we touch on the Penguins too, man, I just wanted to ask you, JT. I mean, even if the Flyers and the Capitals don't make the playoffs, do you think both those coaches are in jeopardy, Tocchet and also Carberry?
No, I think they like. I think the Caps like Carberry. I don't think there's. I think they're trying to develop a new core. I think he's safe. I don't think Tocchet, as unpopular as he is with a portion of the fan base, I think he's going to get another year. I certainly don't think that Danny Briere wants to get rid of him after 1 year, because then that doesn't reflect well on Danny Briere. So I think both will. I'm pretty confident that both will be back next season. Speaking of coaching changes, your Vegas Golden Knights, pal.
No, don't
how
get me
about
started.
that?
Don't even do it. Don't even.
They brought in Torts.
Don't even
to save the day.
Don't even. They did this with Peter DeBoer when he was obviously their inaugural coach at Vegas. They fired him halfway through the season too. I mean, what's his name? McPhee, who's their GM there, and Kelly Crimson, isn't that his name? Kelly Crimson, I believe.
Kelly
McCrimmon, yeah, McCrimmon is the head guy there with Crimson, not Crimson.
No, McCrimmon.
Not like the flower.
No. Kelly McCrimmon, kind of like Brad McCrimmon, the old Flyers defenseman.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you, I don't know. I don't like the hire of Tortorella coming in there. I think that was just a spur of the moment type hire. I mean, I thought DeBoer was doing. Not DeBoer, but Cassidy was doing a heck of a job there with Vegas. I mean, they were streaky. They were streaky all season long. The past couple of games have not been too good for them. They've been really getting themselves in a hole right off the get-go of each of those games that they've played. But to hire John Tortorella, I didn't understand that hire whatsoever. And as soon as he did get hired, I don't know if he had an issue with Mitch Marner at all. Back in the day, but a lot of folks were saying, Mitch Marner's not going to be too happy with this hire of Tortorella, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know how it's going to go there in Vegas. I'm not a fan of John Tortorella. He's been everywhere of late. I think it's just time for him to say, goodbye to the coaching world and maybe just be a TV analyst or something. But I was a fan of Bruce Cassidy, and I'm not sure exactly why they got rid of him. I was also a fan of Pete DeBoer when they had him there at Vegas. But hiring Tortorella is, and this late in the season too. I mean, they're obviously going to make the playoffs here. Hopefully, they've dropped to, I think, third. They're still in third place, I believe, in that division. But I wasn't a fan of the Tortorella hiring.
I guess the front office saw something they didn't like. They didn't like the trajectory that they were going on. So I guess they thought that they make a change now, and Tortorella could maybe provide that spark. But so they came into the league. Their first year was the 2017-2018 season. Because they made the Stanley Cup final in their first year of existence. That's when
they've been in the playoffs every year.
Yeah, they lost to the Caps. Yeah. That's when the Caps won their only Stanley Cup. So they've had how many head coaches? Let's see. Gerard Gallant was the first head coach. Then it was Peter DeBoer.
3.
Then it was
now
was
4
Bruce was Cassidy after DeBoer.
Yep.
And now Tortorella. So 4 head coaches. But when you think about it, with certain teams and kind of with the league as a whole, that's kind of the
trend.
It seems like there's a lot of turnovers in the head coaching ranks in the NHL, especially.
Yeah, I just didn't like how they went about it here. I mean, you have 7-8 games remaining on the schedule. You're gonna make the playoffs. I mean, I believe Vegas is going to make the playoffs going forward. Again, they've had their streaky times this season, but I mean, I don't think that's been any indication of Bruce Cassidy and how he has. I don't think by far he's lost the team or anything going forward out there in Vegas, and then to put Tortorella in there, which is a total 360 from what Bruce Cassidy and how he is as a coach versus what Tortorella is probably going to try and do in that locker room. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens out in Vegas here going forward.
It's funny. As much as they've struggled, they're still not out. The Pacific Division has not been very good this year.
No, it's been all over the place.
So there's 6 games to go, and it's actually they're only 3 points behind Edmonton and Anaheim for first place in the Pacific. Now they have played 1 more game than Anaheim, but they've played the same number of games as Edmonton. So it's not out of the question that they couldn't move into second place. I think I agree with you. I think they should make the playoffs. They're 5 points ahead of the Sharks, who are trying to fend off Nashville and the LA Kings for that second wild card spot. But yeah, I guess they saw something they didn't like, and they decided to pull the trigger there and make the switch to Tortorella. We'll see if it pans out for him or if it backfires on him. Continuing with our hockey talk, Chase, the Hershey Bears. It's go time now. I mean, they're really starting to. They're losing their margin of error here. They're still in a playoff spot. They still control their own destiny, but they got to start racking up some wins here pretty soon. They had they started on. They're in the midst of this long road trip. Again, it started off promising last Friday night. They got the win in Syracuse, a tough road win. And then, you're kind of thinking they might be onto something, and then they lose the next night in Lehigh Valley, and then their struggles against Bridgeport continue. They have the Wednesday morning game on April Fool's, losing 4-1 to Bridgeport, and it continues this week, and they've got tonight, as we record this, Friday night, they're in Springfield against the Thunderbirds, a team that's nipping at their heels.
3 points
They've
behind.
got Hartford. Yeah, they've got Hartford coming up on Saturday night. And then they've got 2 games next weekend in Charlotte and a game in Wilkes-Barre Scranton. It's a daunting road ahead of this team with 7 games to go.
Yeah, and I don't even if the Hershey Bears would get into the playoffs here, I don't think that they're going to do a whole lot. We've discussed this as well. I mean, you can't lose the points that the Bears just lost, in that game, that morning game against Bridgeport. I understand it was an early game, early start time. You're not used to that kind of, start and trying to get out there early, but they just did not play well in that morning game. They gave up a lot of time and space. You talk about it a lot in hockey, the time and space, out there on the ice, and they gave a lot of time and space to Bridgeport in that game and in that morning game, and they've been doing it all season long with the turnovers that they've been doing. Just a very young hockey team. Still, I mean, it's hard to believe that they're late in this season and they're still trying to figure out exactly how to play consistent hockey night in and night out up there in Hershey. Whether it has to do with the new coaching staff, whether it has to be do with the new players, obviously Miroshnichenko, losing him to Washington and him getting called up, and some of the players that got called up this season so far has really, really affected what they're doing down there in Hershey. But you can't be losing these crucial games that they certainly are somewhat in, and then they, kind of fade away late in the third period and give up, even back-to-back goals has been an issue. I mean, it's not just one goal that they give up. They're usually giving up, 2 or 3 goals that are back-to-back-to-back to some of these teams in some of these crucial games, and they just can't keep doing that. They have zero room for error here going forward in the AHL season.
Yeah, it's funny because there's been some glimpses like from the middle of March up until now where there's been some results where you think they might be righting the ship. They had that really good rally in Providence early last month that they ended up losing 5-4. Then they had the win over Wilkes-Barre Scranton that you thought was kind of gonna get them going, and then they followed that up. It was part of a 3-3 weekend. They lost 2 at home to Belleville, which I think can't happen at this point of the season. They lost both ends of the home and home the following weekend to Bridgeport. So you're thinking, okay, they got to get something going. And as we said, they started off the road trip last Friday, winning in Syracuse, but then since then losing in Lehigh Valley and then losing in Bridgeport this past Wednesday. I mean, this is a really, really crucial weekend, a really crucial stretch because, again, Springfield's right on their heels. You would think Hartford's a winnable game, but then 2 in Charlotte on the 11th and 12th, and then the 15th in Wilkes-Barre Scranton. And then another game against Bridgeport coming up the 18th as they come back home to finish out the regular season. I mean, this is the time. There is no, like you said, we've said this, we sound like a broken record. Yep. The margin for error is gone. They've got to start racking up some wins. They don't want to rely on these other teams below them to lose, and they don't want to end up in a situation where they're backing their way into the Calder Cup playoffs.
Well, it's like you referenced too. I mean, you look at that Atlantic Division. I mean, you can see it plain as day as everybody else can. Those top 3 teams, there's nobody catching them in that Atlantic Division from 4th down to 8th. There's only a separation of 10 points there, and everybody is pretty much right on top of each other and on their heels in this playoff push. And I mean, the Bears got to play some consistent hockey from this point on. There can be no more layoffs. There can be no more, laying back and not getting good starts that they haven't been getting all season long, and turning the puck over late and doing those turnovers and costly mistakes that they have been making. And it's to be expected from a young team, and that's what you're seeing from the Hershey Bears here, even later on in the season. And whether or not that coaching staff is the right coaching staff in Hershey, it's minor league hockey. You're getting what you're going to get year in and year out. I know the results that we expect each year up there in Hershey, but this year has not been good for the Chocolate and White up there, and hopefully they make the playoffs. But I do not have high hopes. As our once longtime Philadelphia Phillies broadcaster said, I do not have high hopes of this team doing much if they do advance to the playoffs at all.
You have regular hopes.
I have under average hopes about
under
that
average hopes.
of what the Hershey Bears are going to do if they make the playoffs, because I don't see it happening. They got too much of a young team that still trying to figure this out this late in the season, and you can't be figuring it out this late in a professional hockey season, and they're still trying to figure it out up there in Hershey.
Real quick, we'll touch on the Sixers here before we get on out of here. They won 3 of their last 4. They put up 153 points on April Fools against those lowly Washington Wizards. That comes just a week out after they put up 157 points against the Chicago Bulls. They're trying to round back into shape. They've got themselves in a position now where they've actually, for tiebreaker purposes, have pulled out of the play-in tournament. They're in the 6th position, which I think would be good for them not to be in the play-in tournament. But they've got 2 really tough home games coming up. One tonight, Friday night, as we record this, and one Saturday night as they host the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Detroit Pistons. Then they have a tough road trip coming up as well. Your thoughts here on the Sixers as they head down the stretch in what looks like, I guess, looks like 6 games left in the regular season.
Yeah, no Joel Embiid in the last game. He's got an illness. I'm not sure if is he going to be playing tonight. Embiid?
Probably not. I would say he's probably going to play one of the 2 games if I had to guess, because it's a back-to-back situation. So my guess is I'm not sure which one. I haven't looked close yet, but I would say he probably plays either tonight or he plays tomorrow. I don't think he's going to play both.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, you can look at that Washington game and say, hey, they scored 153 points. At one point in time, they went on a 24-4 run early in that game too. Maxey had a good game. Edgecombe had a good game. Paul George had a good game. It's like you said, they're in sixth place now in that Eastern Conference, even with Toronto. But the Sixers, like you said, hold the tiebreaker in that one. Maybe the better game to look at was the game prior to that when they took on the Miami Heat. Much better team than Washington in that game. I mean, they let the Heat rally to a 14-0 deficit. I think it was late in that game where, the Sixers were up and just let the Heat right back in that game very, very late in the fourth quarter and go on that 14-0 run. You can't have runs like that as you're getting into the playoffs and let teams back into the mix. The Sixers were the same way almost, throughout the season where they would go into a deficit, they go into a hole in that third and fourth quarter, make that comeback in the fourth quarter, but they just let the Miami Heat back in that game. Can't have setbacks like that. I think, when they get Embiid, they get Paul George in that lineup, they get Edgecombe, they get Maxey, Oubre in that lineup as well. I mean, when all those guys are ticking, they are a really good quality NBA team to watch, and they just really haven't had that consistency with all those guys, the top five starters being in that mix, week night in, night out throughout the NBA season this year, and it's probably not going to be likely, even if they do make the playoffs, that you're going to see all of these five guys, in that starting lineup, even in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think if there was more consistency there, if they were healthier. In a different situation and they played more together, I would think they would be primed to upset somebody in the first round. I think they're going to be a tough out. I think they're going to push whoever they play in the first round, and hopefully they don't have to play in the play-in tournament. But I ultimately think they're going to come up a little short in the first round. We'll see here. We'll see if they can get some rhythm and some momentum going here in these last 6 games of the regular season. But my friend, it's been fun once again. Another edition here of Broad Street and Beyond, and coming to you from the Fairview Golf Course Studios. Great golf in Central PA for over 60 years. Yes, my friend, it has come to an end. Now, actually, you are free to stay as long as you want, and you can talk some sports. I'm going to go do some other stuff. You can talk amongst yourself. Certainly, we want to reiterate once again. We are now part of the Seven Mountains Media Sports family, so you can download the Radio Novo app, the My Froggy Valley app, or the Wilbur Radio app, and you can find our podcast there. Obviously, we'll still be up on the YouTube channel, Broad Street and Beyond. Like, share, and subscribe. And you can find us over at 7mmsports.com. That's the number 7mmsports.com. We certainly thank you for tuning in. And also a quick programming note. Chase and I did an interview with Jake Starr, a broadcaster and media relations guy with the Reading Fightin' Phils. That's going to drop coming up on Tuesday the 7th, kind of like right before to get you a teaser, because Chase will be broadcasting live on Froggy Valley 100.1 down at the R. Phils home opener, or actually Lebanon County night down at the Reading Fightin' Phils. I think their home opener. Is that their home opener the 7th?
Yeah. Tuesday night. Yeah,
okay, that is Tuesday night, the home opener. You'll be broadcasting there live on the Froggy Valley 100.1 airwaves. So listen for that. But if you want to whet your appetite with some R. Phils content, we had a nice chat with Jake Starr. That'll drop, I guess, coming up Tuesday morning, right?
Yep. Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. Look for that to drop. Yep. Tuesday
morning, 9 a.m. Chase, my friend, enjoy your Good Friday. Enjoy your Easter weekend. And again, we thank everyone for tuning in and for listening as well. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll talk to you next week right here on Broad Street and Beyond.
Enjoy those sports. Happy Easter, everybody.
Happy Easter, everyone.